Okay, hey everybody. Hope you're having a good weekend. I'm still a little bit sick. I think I'm finally getting over it, but I wanted to show a couple of things. I usually start off with kind of a recap of what I've been posting on Twitter, and I'll go over some of those things. But today's going to be kind of a fun recap on some things about historical Bitcoin action, ETH BTC action, what else? Bitcoin dominance, things like that. And I'll look at a couple of coins, but mostly I want to go over this because I think we're finally to that point where we're going to see Bitcoin continue for a bit, and we'll still see some alts go up, which that's all I really care about. I mean, of course, Bitcoin needs to be somewhat bullish for altcoins to do well, but for the most part, I just trade altcoins all the time. I'm a short-term trader. I'm a long-term trader. I just want volatility so I can trade the market up and down. And speaking of which, I do want to go over that idea real quick, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I've been posting a couple of things on some Bitcoin paths, specific altcoins like Band. Here's a Bitcoin dominance chart. If you're not following me on Twitter, you need to do it if you really want to have these calls. I don't do many videos. I might do one a week, but most of my content is on Twitter. Here's the thing on Doge. But what I wanted to start off with is, let me find it here. Okay. So this is TRB, which I think is Teller is the name of the coin. I don't do any fundamental analysis at all. I don't care what a coin does. I don't care what the team is. As long as the coin has a significant market cap, and it's not a real old coin. I mean, like XRP, I don't really like to trade that one much, although there probably will come a time when it'll take off and it'll be a good investment. I really want something that's going to move around a lot. And this is a good example. This is on an hourly chart. I mean, look how much this moved up and down where you could have made, multiple trades within, I don't know, 5 or 6 days, something like that. And if you're talking about leverage on this and you're just playing your support resistance lines, right? I mean, yeah, this one got a little bit above the resistance. I was wrong on where the resistance was on that one, but you could have just waited till it got back under it, taking a trade somewhere here and, ride it down to this line or, play this range for a while or ride it all the way back down to the major support line. So these are the things I like to do. And one thing I mentioned here is once you have these support resistance lines drawn, trading these ranges is one of the least stressful ways to trade because you just, you respect the support resistance line. So if you put your trade here and maybe you've got a stop loss down here about 5% below, because you don't want to put it too tight. They'll come down and grab your stop loss, kind of like right here. So I would put it about 5%, and maybe this wouldn't have even been enough in this case. But and I think it did go back up after this. It's just such an easy way to trade once you get comfortable with it. So that kind of gives you an idea how I do things there. And then I also mentioned that Bitcoin looked like it was starting to put in an engulfing red candle here at the very top of the action on November 2nd. That was 2 days ago. And I think, let's see what it did. Yeah, it didn't actually end up being an engulfing, but if we look at the weekly, which closes tomorrow, we do have kind of a shooting star candle. I mean, if it ends up like this, then these are the two paths that I see happening that make the most sense to me based on historical price action. And really, it needs to respect the range as well. I mean, it doesn't have to, but this is our current range right here. So you had a deviation down here. We could get a deviation right here as well. Just because it looks, excuse me, just because it looks like it's stopping here at the top, doesn't mean it actually is. Same it was doing here. It looks like it was stopping at the bottom and it was just going to go right back up. Didn't do that. It actually faked a bunch of people out and it grabbed a lot of stop losses down here before moving up much higher. And if you would have been stopped here, all you would have had to do was just wait until it got back above. And you could have had your moving averages here. And once it broke out, even if you didn't have this range where it was showing you the midline and the top and the bottom, you could have just bought whenever it touched the 1221 EMA, or if it crashes through it once it gets back above it. as long as these two lines don't cross below each other, then it's not a true downtrend. It's still in an uptrend currently. And actually, that's on the weekly chart. It did cross down on the daily. It crossed here. Well, it kind of touched here, but it crossed down there, and it crossed down here, and it crossed down here. But now, obviously, it's headed back up, and it could be finding a resistance here, or it'll do a fake out up just like it did down here. And then if it gets back in this range, then you would take a short right there. Otherwise, we're just going to reject here, and we'll come down. We'll come down to, some point of support in this area where it was resistance at one time. And then, maybe it even fails back through that to grab these stop losses. Maybe it comes down like this. People grab a piece of it right there, and they have their stop loss way down here, which really they would want to put it down here. And then it comes back up, rejects again, comes down, and then, does kind of like an inverted head and shoulders. I'm looking at this purple line, and then it takes off. And don't really look at the timing here. I mean, I think we'll look at this more closely, but if you're talking about the halving is going to be, April 2024 sometime, then Bitcoin should be moving pretty good, at that point. But, there's still one more move it could do. It could just go ahead and blast all the way up to 48K after it goes sideways a bit. But just understand that if it does this, like if I remove these, and we'll take one more idea into account here, maybe we just go sideways in a real tight range, and then it just all of a sudden blasts off up here to 48K. And the reason why 48K is so important, I'll show you here in a second. But let's just say it does that, blasts up here. You're usually going to get a much bigger correction. If you have a long extended move up that's very overextended, then usually you're going to get a pretty good move down after that. And maybe it just comes back down to here, but there's a chance it could come all the way down to here or something. So there's a couple different things that can happen here. And timing, like I said, I don't know exactly, but we should be bullish for Bitcoin and the altcoins as well, sometime around the halving. And what I want to show here in a second is it's kind of happened different. It's kind of happened differently over the last two cycles. So we're talking about like 2016, 2019, which would have been 2016 to 2019 or 2018, whatever it was the bull market. And then from 2020 to, late 2021. And what we looked at there is on the halving date, and I'll show it here on the chart so you can understand better. I made a post about this on Twitter. You could have alts get a little bit bullish just before halving, maybe a month or two, or the alts will get bullish like exactly on the halving, or maybe even a month or two after. So there's kind of like a 3 to 4 month period where the halving is kind of right in between that 3 to 4 month period. And I don't know exactly when it's going to happen because every cycle is a little bit different and we can't really predict that. But we do know there's going to be another point at some point to accumulate altcoins if you did miss it. And some altcoins haven't taken off at all, so you could be accumulating right now. I'll show you that ETH BTC chart here in a second. So this is just another idea here. There's a lot of supply right here. The demand is probably down in here somewhere, kind of where this resistance was. There's probably a lot of buy orders down here, people hoping it gets a retest down here and then they can get it cheaper. So yeah, that's the idea there. We're in this range. That's what you need to know. This is major support, major resistance. This is the midline, kind of fair value, if you want to call it that, for just this range. And the reason why this is the high right here is because at one time it was support back here in 2021. And then when that support broke down, this became the resistance on the next move up. So clearly we're bullish, though. That's the thing to take away from this. Okay, so what do I want to talk about here? I did want to talk about the federal funds rate real quick because it seems like they might be pausing for an extended period of time. And what pausing looks like is this little plateau effect here, and then it finally rolls over where they start reducing rates. I don't know how quick this is going to happen, by the way. I mean, we all know that the economy is is a mess right now. And really, I can't remember what it was like in 2007. I'd have to look back at the news stories and stuff to really see. But let's just say it does plateau here. Really, when Bitcoin got, I mean, everybody remembers March 2020, right? Really, when Bitcoin got super bullish was after that big correction down. And so you had this plateau here on the federal funds rate. And this was, like October, well, no, it's actually May 2019 is like right before it started going back down. But it didn't take off right away. I mean, you did have a move up, and we'll look at that. That was May. Did I say May? I need to be able to see these at the same time. I'm just going to put it over here on my other screen. Yeah, looks like from February to May of 2019. So the previous cycle, here's February, and here is May. So you started getting a move up, and then it had a big explosion. But because of this big extended move, like we talked about a minute ago, it had to correct just as big to come back down here and grab all this liquidity. Remember, the market makers are always going to go back and grab that liquidity at some point. They're not just going to let people make tons of money. They want to go back and grab those stop losses that are down there. So the faster it moves up, at some point, you're going to have a big correction down, unless you have a really long extended sideways action. And really, one way you can tell if this is I wouldn't call it a fake out, but if this is a move that's not going to last, usually you're going to see it something like, like this, where it kind of has levels to it and it slowly works itself up. Instead, this is real parabolic. And so it had to correct hard because it didn't have a long consolidation before a big move up like that. And those real moves are going to be more, the ones that don't need a big correction are going to be more like what I just did with the arrows, or where's my little brush? Here we go. It's going to be more like this, just kind of a slow climb up. And I wouldn't say that necessarily happened here. I mean, I guess you could say in a way it was sort of like that, but at some point it started doing that blow off top. I was really surprised that this held right here. Usually after a blow off top like this, you get a big move down like it did right here. So yeah, that's that. Let's look at, oh yeah, well, one thing I was just going to say real quick on federal funds rate is when you get, when it rolls over and then it flatlines like this was right after March 2020. And then that's when you got the real move. So here's March 2020, and then you got that V-shaped recovery. I don't know if we had a big move up and then a crash like that, I don't think we'd get a big V-shaped recovery like this unless the rates were low, or it had at least started going way down and maybe got near 2% or something. So just be aware of that. It's really hard to navigate if you're thinking about just the macroeconomic, what the economists are talking about currently with rates and people having trouble paying their bills and credit card debt being, sky high, things like that. It's just really hard to say what's going to happen with the markets, but currently it has an effect. I mean, even war hasn't affected crypto, which is honestly pretty surprising. But just be aware if you do get a big crash from crypto for whatever reason, and sometimes these 30% retracements happen just randomly, like right here. Here's one that happened a lot back here in this stage. So at some point it is going to happen, but we don't know if there's going to be a massive crash just, because of what the economy is doing, or if the dollar crashes, we're kind of in uncharted territory, but until we're proven otherwise, we have to believe that these cycles will continue, these 4 to 5 year cycles, whatever they are. All right, so here's the real interesting one to me. This is Ethereum Bitcoin. and I've already marked out the halvings here. So currently, if you imagine that this is a bottom, then we've gotten a double bottom currently. And it really hasn't been proven just yet, although we are getting a little bit of a move up for Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And all this means is that Ethereum is doing, well, I guess for this weekly candle, Ethereum is doing just as good as Bitcoin. I'd have to look at what the Ethereum chart looked like. But anytime you've got Ethereum going down or any other altcoin versus Bitcoin, if you're looking at whatever alt it is versus the Bitcoin pair, then that means Bitcoin is outperforming it. And that always happens in these bear markets. So you got this halving in 2016. This is what I was talking about earlier about how the altcoins dipped after the halving and then created one more bottom. And I'm going to show you here. I'm going to, as far as an illustration goes, that's what this looks like at support 2. And that's why I have this support 2 drawn here. So if we get a 2016 type halving, then you may not see the ETH BTC pair find that final bottom until support 2 or close to it. I mean, it could just come to here. So dip a little bit more, create a, kind of a bearish divergence. Let me see what this looks like. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to pull up RSI. It's just a clearer picture. Yeah, so we're way oversold on RSI clearly. And here's what we had back in 2016. I bet if I went down to the daily chart, we'd see some kind of, bearish or bullish divergence. So you got a clear double bottom here in right before 2020 halving. You had one more bottom, 2016 halving after it. Here's the one that happened before the 2020 halving. And that would be, let's see, where's March? Okay, here's March right here. So this would have been that crash for COVID right there. And then everything just started going up at that point. And just like this, you had a big blow off top, although this one doesn't really look like it. Things were a lot more volatile when Ethereum was still in its infancy. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at. We're either going to have this be the double bottom. So if you see this come back above S1, and you can mark these on your own chart, or I can share this either way. But if you see this get back above 5338, have a significant candle right here and stay above that line, then we're doing something more like this because it happened before the halving. However, if you see this come down to, at least come down past this wick right here. So we'll say if it gets below 47.5, 0.475 Satoshis, then this is going to be more like 2016 halving, where we're going to bottom on the ETH BTC pair after halving. And that happened, let's see, that was August, September, October, November, December. So that took about 4 months before that bottom happened. And if I just bring up, let's take a good look here while we're talking about it. I don't want to make this too long, but we'll look at it real quick. Sometimes you got to make these logarithmic. All right. So here is the bottom. Yeah, so ETH had already gone up a bit from, what was this? Oh yeah, that was from back here, 2015. So it went up a little bit, had a long rest. And then after having found this next bottom right here, then it took off. And the place where it topped out was actually this lower high. And that happens a lot with alts. They don't always top out where Bitcoin tops out. And I'd have to bring that up to show that side by side. Maybe I should. But that could just be another thing we talk about one other day, because that's a whole nother story. Because sometimes alts will, like, say if this was Bitcoin that I was looking over here, if Bitcoin topped out here, some alts do top where Bitcoin tops, but sometimes Bitcoin will come down, it'll create a lower high, and this is where some alts will top. And there's really no way to know which one will do it other than just watching the charts to see, where they're bullish and where they're bearish, and try to figure out where your top is or close to it. Okay, so that was 2016 up to the January 2018 top for ETH. And so now we come down, and here's halving 2020. ETH had already created one bottom. Here's a second bottom. And this looked very similar to what Bitcoin did. Remember, it came up, had a big push, and then it rolled over because it couldn't sustain that. And then eventually after March 2020, it took off. So ETH BTC, it had started creating higher lows here. And then it finally had its breakout. So here's the breakout. Actually, that was real close to the top where ETH BTC had a top or a breakout. So the very top of this ETH BTC chart for this cycle, for the most previous one, 2021, happened in December. I think I remember that. That was around December 4th of 2021. And so here's that November 2021 or December 4th top that Bitcoin had put in. So yeah, these look real similar, obviously, the ETH and the BTC charts. This one created barely a higher high from this one, and it faked a lot of people out. And then it came right back down. Kind of a head and shoulders look, isn't it? Yeah. So you can't exclusively look at these ETH Bitcoin charts or alt Bitcoin charts. I just like to check them to get some confluence. And that's what I'm looking for right now, is to see if this is the double bottom for ETH, and ETH takes off. I mean, it would really fool a lot of people if it just rolled back over. And I suspect that it would probably come back down here to about, well, actually, let me check it. So it could come as low as about 400 because of the golden pocket down here, or 640. 640 would probably make more sense because that would be this support too. But that's just ETH. I mean, we know ETH tends to take off in the bull run before, that's kind of the progression. Bitcoin does its move, then the larger caps do their move, then the mid caps, low caps, and then the micro caps. And I guess it'll happen that same way. I mean, it's happened that way every cycle so far. But we are starting to reach a point here on ETH where it's getting close to that resistance. And we just think about ranges still. I mean, that's all you care about is the range. I haven't really drawn this range before, so I'm having to take my time with it. Here's the midpoint, maybe here. Well, anyway, here's the short-term range. And it looks like it did have a breakout. I mean, if you were to put a trend line there, it did have a breakout. But there's another major support line down here. I think it's probably right in here somewhere. So it's staying above the midline currently after this breakout. Not much to see there. I mean, it's just playing within the range. But it could just come up here, reject one more time, and come all the way back down if it wanted to. I mean, we can't really predict these moves. But of course, if you get above here, then the next point would be up here at this order block, which is 3,500. I don't think it would get over that before it came back down. And timing, I really don't know the timing on these things. All I know for a fact is that around the halving, things tend to get more bullish. And maybe that's a couple of months before, maybe that's a couple of months after. I don't know for sure because each cycle is a little bit different. But that's why I'm saying, kind of watch the halving area, maybe a couple of months before the halving happens. So that would be, February 2024. I've got this marked right here, halving 2024. So again, either we come down here and then take off, or play around down here first and then take off, or we just hold that and play in this range. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because it hasn't really spent much time in this range other than right here. I mean, I would think this would be pretty bearish for it to come down one more time. So maybe it just plays around in here, and then, shortly after the halving, it takes off. And then we have our another, we have another top that happens sometime in, I think it'll be November 2025, something like that. Because these bull runs, what do they last? A year and a half, maybe. Anyway, something like that, a year and a half to 2 years. I think it's probably about a year and a half. I don't really remember. I guess I could easily check it right here, couldn't I? If we want to take the very bottom to the very top. Yeah, it's about a year and a half to 2 years, something like that. It depends on which one of these you call the top. All right. So yeah, this is another really interesting chart, and we're talking about Bitcoin dominance here. I had posted this on Twitter. Why is this not working? Can't get this to stretch out like I want to. Anyway, this was back. Here, I'll try to mark these so that it's easy to follow. I think it was August 2016, maybe. Yeah, August 2016 was the 2016 halving. And then you had, actually, I got to go back and look at this one. June 2020. All right, June 2020 was the, where's it at here? Right about there. So right here was the halving for 2020. Here's 2016 halving. And the only thing to really know about this is Bitcoin dominance falls off a table during an altcoin run, during the main bull run, because a lot of coins are going up. And so we had this bear market where Bitcoin dominance climbed back up. It rolled over temporarily, but then it made another high. And then, this was the March, where is it at? So here's March 2020 right here. And then a lot of altcoins bled out during Bitcoin's move back up after March 2020. Or sorry, altcoins went up with Bitcoin and then it bled out. So here's the bleed out. Anytime Bitcoin dominance goes up, altcoins are bleeding. But then you got this massive parabolic, just, dagger or knife falling event during the Bitcoin bull run for 2021. And so Bitcoin and altcoins were going up at the same time. And then things, I mean, you would call this consolidation for this chart, but this would be distribution on, it would be actually, if you just flip it. So here's your distribution for Bitcoin and altcoins, where it's at the top of a range or the top of the market, and it's playing around in this zone right here. And then finally it gives in, and now you've got your, bear market. But actually the bear market started right here. Anywhere in here is where it started, which is interesting to me. I mean, if you look at this, you wonder why it didn't stop right here. And in actuality, some of the altcoins did top out in May 2021. So I would say once you get back to the top of your range, like where some resistance is, like right here, there was resistance. And actually, I better turn that inversion off or it'll get confusing. But there was, like you were playing this big range here, and then bull market started. And if you looked where this was resistance at one point and turned into support on this chart, you would have figured, well, it could stop here. And I'm actually curious about that. That was April 2021. Yeah, so that's really interesting, because that's where the first dip happened for Bitcoin. It had this massive move, and then the first dip happened. So apparently a lot of people were pulling money at that point. Right here. Did I get that right? Yeah. So right about here, because they expected things to slow down just because that was the support. But then it broke that support, and then it came all the way down here. And then as soon as it found this next area of support, a lot of people were exiting the market. People that were in the know, knew how to watch these charts. And especially when you saw it reject here with a big candle, that was a big sign to get out. But, it came back up here, it found resistance. And just remember, this is kind of flipped what we would normally say. Normally we like support. Normally we don't like resistance if we're in a long. But in this case, you would prefer resistance, because as soon as it rejected off of this, then you got one more mini bull run. And that's when that November, well, somewhere in here, there was that November 2021 top for everything. And then it started falling apart and rolling over. And so what we're looking at currently here is, let me find April 2024 again. So this is about the middle of April 2024 right there. So that'll be our next halving roughly. And I think we're going to get some kind of rising wedge move where it'll just kind of play around and get tighter and tighter. And it could even squeeze into this box here more, but I'm just saying, this was our previous support. So it makes a lot of sense that it would reject right here. If it gets higher than this, then alts would really bleed. I mean, alts would probably go down to their previous March 2020 lows or the pre-pandemic highs that they had. But there's definitely a case to be made that it could pass this line and go to this one, because that was, if you want to talk about order blocks, order blocks are the candles right before a big move, a big imbalance down, and that would be this one. So it could squeeze past this and get right above this line and then come down. It's really interesting. I'll it'd be kind of enjoyable to see what happens here. But just know, as Bitcoin dominance goes up, that means alts are bleeding out somewhere. I mean, maybe not all alts are. Maybe you're getting some alts that are doing 10x like TRB did, or what was the other one? Loom maybe, or Ren. I can't remember which one it was. Even during this move, altcoins were going up. Currently, we're getting a little bit of a red candle down, and it could come down to this line. I'm drawing these lines very early. I don't know for a fact that they're going to hold, but so far they are. We'll just have to see what happens if it does come down here to see if this line holds. But if you do get this move down, then a lot of altcoins will go up. But if you get another green candle up, then a lot of altcoins will go down and they'll bleed. And this just kind of goes along with altcoins doing their slow march up before the big parabolic move. And so I want to show you one more thing here, and I think you'll probably like this one the most. Let me leave those on there. I want to take some of these lines. Well, actually, I want to take all the lines off. Let's see. I thought I had these grouped. Do I want to leave that? I definitely want to take that. I want to take that. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So let me bring in some coins that we know have been around for a long time. So here's XRP, and this is the USD pair because it's got more history. Did it not add? Oh, I took it off actually. Okay, here it is, maybe. Let me see what's going on. Give me 1 second. Now, let me just take it off completely and redo it. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing. I'm going to do XRP, USD. I'm adding it to this chart, and then I'm going to pin it to a new left scale over here. And then I'm going to set it to logarithmic. And we're just going to go through this real quick. So notice how even though XRP had a big move up in 2015, it went sideways during that bear market, and it had a real tight range. And that's what dominance did right here. But once dominance started rolling over and falling, look what XRP did. It was very volatile back then. And then once it got to its top in January 2018, dominance was bottoming. And then the dominance took off, went all the way back up to the top. And during this time, XRP was in its bear market. And then it found a bullish divergence there. And it went up a little bit. And this is something to take note of. It went up a little bit, and then it consolidated for a little bit before the next move. The reason why this is important is because it's what I was talking about just now. You may see this move up, down, up, down. These alts may do this again. So when Bitcoin dominance goes down, the alts are going up. But as soon as dominance, has a bigger move back up for a little bit, the alts may just sit stagnant, or they could roll back over and retest support. A lot of things could happen there. But if Bitcoin dominance is going up, then obviously Bitcoin has the market share majority. There's a ton of altcoins out there, and more join the ranks every day. And the more that join, the further it pushes down Bitcoin dominance. But if Bitcoin has a lot of money coming into it, then that means people aren't putting money into alts, right? And so you got another big move, which this move, it looks like it happened when Bitcoin dominance was going up, but that didn't really happen. It happened when dominance was coming down a little bit right here on these 2 weekly candles, maybe 3, because we got a massive rejection. A lot of people probably remember this rejection that happened. I think that was the one where the lawsuit began. But all it really did is come down and retest this support. And actually, it took out a lot of stop losses there. There was probably a wick there. I'd have to look on the chart. But then when dominance topped, then XRP took off, and it did its top in May 2021, like we were talking about a minute ago, how some altcoins will top out before Bitcoin does. Bitcoin put in its final top for the bull market in November 2021, but there was a previous lower high put in May 2021 that a lot of alts topped out at. And then you had another bear market. This is probably the bottom right here. I can't imagine it going back down to here. But you can see that this bottom happened as Bitcoin dominance was finding a bottom. And this is a little bit surprising, to be honest, that XRP has held its gains so well while Bitcoin dominance was putting in a pretty good move. But I guess part of that is XRP didn't really have a big bull market last year, or 2021. So maybe this one's going to be an even bigger cycle for it. We'll just have to see. I'm not saying you have to invest in it. I'm just saying it's such an old coin and such a high market cap. It seems like it can't go real high, but I do believe that $13 is a possibility this next bull run. And currently it's whatever, 50 cents. I'm not sure. But just know, it could still come down and retest this support somewhere. It just depends on what happens with the market. Like if Bitcoin pushes way up and then just crashes down real hard back to its support and then continues back up, then that would really affect alts. Anytime Bitcoin dominance is going up while Bitcoin is going down, it's like a bleed effect on the alts. It's pretty bad for them. So we'll look at a couple more here. So I'll take off XRP. Here's ADA. And I'm just going to I usually use the USDT pair, but in this case, I'm having to use USD because it has more history. I put logarithmic. Okay. So a little bit different here. Not as much history, but a little bit different anyway. Here was the top, September 2021 for ADA. All coins are a little bit different. It had a bottom in March 2020, obviously, like most coins did. Created its double bottom about the time. So it created the double bottom in March 2020, yeah. And then this rolled over one more time for dominance as ADA came up. But once it started taking off again, ADA had its next correction. And this was a perfect support test right there. Just came up, retested what was previously resistance and took off. And this is a really strong move for ADA. This is kind of surprising. I didn't remember that it did this, but it was making a pretty good move up while Bitcoin dominance was going up. It just took a rest in a couple key points, but let's see, May. Yeah, it actually made a higher high, just like Bitcoin did. So this is interesting. Just know that I really don't think it matters what the age of the coin is. Like in the case of XRP, just because it topped out, it had its high in May 2021 and topped before Bitcoin did, it doesn't mean that all the other old coins are going to do that. I don't know, like if you were looking to get out at the top and you got lucky and did, I don't know that you would have known to get back in. That would have been a tough one, especially just looking at this chart, unless you would have had your lines already set, like this is resistance and it rejected off of it. And you said, oh, well, Bitcoin dominance is rejecting. Well, I'm getting back in. But yeah, this was an amazing run. I want to look at some coins that I actually haven't looked at. Let me see if I can get persistence on here, because this is one that came around about the time that Bitcoin was having its when Bitcoin was having its bull run. It was already in the midst of the bull run. Yeah, so this would have been impossible to tell. Like a lot of people were buying, I think it was around $11 is what this top is. A lot of people were buying persistence at the suggestion of Michelle Whitedev. And, because she did tell a lot of people, no, it's not going to go up right away. But in a couple of years it could, or, many years away it could. So people were accumulating up here, not realizing that was the top. But clearly, if Bitcoin's making a major top, then you don't need to be buying anything. You need to be selling. But here's what's interesting about persistence is it looks like it has found its double bottom. I'm not going to make a big point of this as far as the persistence chart, but I just want to look real quick and see what RSI is doing currently. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Yeah, so clearly it's made a double bottom. It has broken above the little EMA band here. It's not above the 50 RSI on the weekly, so it's not super bullish yet. But just think in terms, I mean, money flow is starting to come back in, but just think in terms of if this was a range right here, this bottom of the RSI to the middle, maybe it just kind of plays around in this for a bit, but continues to make higher lows, then that would, continue to push it up eventually. I mean, there's a lot of room for this one to go back up, and it's never had a true bull run because it's still a new coin, basically. So it could have like a 50x move. The first moves it would make, because you can see this resistance here, would be, I don't know, somewhere from 2x to 3x first, maybe as high as 4x. If you look at here's your fibs here. So $83.38. Well, let me just put a thing on here. Yeah, from here, that's 3.5, a 6, 12x, and a 25x. So, that's just some things. It is making higher lows on RSI. It will reject at the 50 RSI once it gets up there. It is above the 50 RSI currently on the daily. It did make a pretty good move here before, but it needs to get above this downtrend line here and this resistance line before it gets bullish to this next one. I didn't mean to get into all that, though. I mostly wanted to show the other stuff on this chart. Let's see. Let me give you one more coin. I'm trying to think of a popular one. Let's see. We did ADA. We did XRP. I think we kind of did ETH. We could look at something like a gaming coin. Oh, Solana. A lot of you like Solana, I'm sure. And then I'll look at another gaming coin and we'll wrap it up. Maybe the Coinbase has no. Actually, I don't know. Let me see when Solana was born here. All right, so Solana, July 2020. So this isn't a good one. Let's do the Binance maybe, or the crypto. Okay, here we go. So again, when you pull these up, when you add them here to the chart, all you have to do is pin. I usually pin to the left scale, so I don't have a bunch of scales showing up here. And then I'll click on the scale over here and do it logarithmic. If I have this one logarithmic, which I do, I think. Well, no, I don't. There we go. Doesn't really change anything though. So this one probably showed a double bottom if it would have been an older coin. So here's the second bottom. Looks like, yeah, this one pretty much follows. I mean, this is one way you can look at this. This one does a pretty good job of following the movement. It's almost like an inverse correlation to the Bitcoin dominance. So if Bitcoin dominance goes up, this one's going down, and you can just take that to the bank. Yeah, I mean, it's almost exactly. So this one topped out November 2021, had a small top out during that May correction that Bitcoin had. So another example of one that topped out with Bitcoin. And usually the high market cap coins are going to top out with Bitcoin, but there's some exceptions. And I think XRP was one of those exceptions. Well, was it? Actually, don't remember. XRP. Yeah. So it topped out early. And you can put these both on the chart if you want. I mean, you can do like this, pin scale left, and then grab this one, logarithmic. And now you can look at both of them at the same time if you want. So here's XRP topped early for this cycle after the halving. And then Solana topped right here. And one thing you can do, let me just show you something that I was telling somebody else in another channel about. Let me make sure you can see this. Yeah. All right, so let's say I go to Solana, and then I want to look at all Solana ecosystem coins. So I'll scroll down here on the left. On any coin, you can do this. I'll click Solana ecosystem. Now I can see all the coins that are somehow connected to Solana, you know, some project they're doing within the Solana ecosystem. And you can see the market caps here. Typically, I like to find market caps that are under 50 million if I can, just because they're more volatile. You know, if they're ready to go, like Civic's a little bit higher, but Civic did real good last run. What's a good one? This is very specific. I'm trying to find one that seems familiar. That's under 50 million. Well, Star Atlas, that's one. So it's Atlas. I think some people know DIA. Bonk has started to, for whatever reason, go up. These meme coins are so funny. Ren, a lot of people know it's a little bit over 50 million. You know, it's fine. I mean, sometimes people consider a low market cap under 100 million even. But, you know, if it's under 50 million, sometimes it's somewhat of a new coin, and that's kind of what I'm looking for volatility. I don't worry about, you know, dilution numbers and all that sort of thing, and, you know, the things that you consider for stocks. A lot of fake liquidity from the government gets put into crypto. So all I care is either it's going up a lot or it's going down a lot, so I can make money either way. So what you can do is you can choose any of these coins and see what they did last cycle, or you know, see what their charts are doing currently if they haven't moved yet. I don't know if we can look at one that hasn't moved yet. I mean, you can kind of look how this one's going down here and say, okay, you know, ramps under 50 million. Let's just see what's going on with it. And I don't know if I want to add it to this. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, it's probably a new coin. Yeah, it's somewhat new. So it topped out in September, pretty close to what Solana did. And, you know, they're both in the same ecosystem. I'll tell you what, it'd be really interesting to look at that and look at multiple coins and say, did any of the other Solana ecosystem coins top out near Solana, or just you know, before or after Solana? That would be a pretty interesting subject to study. But you can see this is pretty flat. I mean, you could draw some, if you had this specific chart up, you know, there's some kind of triangle working there. And of course, there's a line down here for support. As soon as it broke out of that triangle, you could buy some. But clearly, it looks like it's finding a base. Although Solana looks much better. You know, it's more vertical, the way it's been acting, higher lows, higher highs. Eventually, it's going to come back down and test this, I would imagine, once dominance starts moving again. So anyway, yeah, that's all I was going to say about that. If you ever want to, like, say Solana is going up and it's made a really big move and it's starting to rest, go back and look at some of these other coins in the Solana ecosystem and see if they haven't moved yet. And if they haven't, there's a chance they could follow Solana. You know, so just rotate your money from any Solana money that you made to this, you know, whatever these coins are, Ramp, or, you know, I'm not suggesting Ramp. I'm just saying they could do that. But try not to buy a big breakout, you know, wait for things to pull back. That's the best way to play. Okay. I mean, these are some of the calls we made. I'm just going to close with this real quick. I'll run through these as fast as I can. So it broke above this downtrend line that I had, and then it broke above this downtrend line that I drew where it looked like it had resistance. So I just want to show that this works. You know, when it breaks out of these downtrend lines, if you want to wait for it to come back and retest, sometimes it will. Or if you want to wait for it to get above this resistance line, come back and retest that resistance line right there. Now it's support, and you could have made a nice gain there. Here's Astra. I know a lot of you are following it. The last time we talked about it, I was talking about it has to get above this downtrend line here, and it has to stay above S1, support 1. It hasn't done either one of those things. So next support line is S2. It may make a double bottom there. That would be good. This could be a deviation under the mean or under the range that it created here. So just imagine that this is a, a parallel channel somewhere here. So imagine this is your range, something like that. You had a deviation below it, it got back in. Here's your retest. So it went way up, it came back down. This was the break back up into the range from this deviation. It held real good. I had actually talked about this at the time. I said, this is an amazing, as far as fibs go, this is an amazing retest because it hit the golden pocket perfectly. And so now it could just be coming back down to test it one more time, then it breaks out. So, if you're holding this one, I think, of course, if it was to get back below this S2 line, it's not great, but it could still make a double bottom there. However, if you got a full candle close below S3, then, that's not good at all. You don't want to see that. I'm trying to see if I can give you a direction on this one currently on the 3 hour. What's it look like? It could be curling up soon, but it may just be doing a thing where it's just slowly working its way down that line. It doesn't mean that it can't break out sooner. It definitely could. But currently it's trying to make a double bottom, it seems, for this temporary support area. But to me, it just looks like it's probably going to come down some more. I think daily it kind of looks like that too, yeah. It needs to get back above that 50 line on this HARC indicator. So mask, this was another one we talked about where it broke out of this resistance area, came back and retested it, perfect purchase. Sometimes I share these charts and you can just follow them. Play these support resistance lines. It works great. Look at this. You got a bought here, sold here, could come back down and retest this area. You buy here again. If it gets below it, you get rid of it. You wait till it gets here, you buy it here if it holds, and then you play it back up to that line or, whatever you want to do. And that's what I was talking about at the very first of the video. It takes more patience to play these ranges, but you sure can make a lot of money with them. And the reason why this is resistance is because this is one of those order blocks like I was talking about. It's the small candle before the imbalance, the big move down, or if it was a big move up, price may come up and then retest that area, come back and grab all those stop losses that are down there. Market makers always want to go, where the liquidity is. They want to grab that liquidity and then shift it, make it go down the other way. AERGO, I think I heard about this one from a different Twitter user, but I don't remember who it was. I think I got in maybe down here where it was retesting this EMA, but clearly it has, good money flow currently. We're well above the 50 RSI on this HARC. And all HARC is, by the way, is it's just showing the Heiken Ashi candles. I think if I turn everything off, they should look somewhat similar. Yeah, they're fairly similar anyway. It's a little bit different, but it shows you the momentum better, these Heiken Ashi candles. Clearly you're above the 1221. It's still bullish. Could be finding some resistance there currently. I don't like that this chart doesn't have more history. This is one I just entered spot, by the way. I don't have a way to purchase this one on leverage. So as long as it stays with 1221 on the daily chart, you're fine. But wait for a retest if you're not in it yet. Here's another one where it's trying to get back above in the range, and currently it's in the range. This is banned. It did break above what was the resistance level at that time, and it's holding as support currently, but it needs to get above this line right here at 150-ish. And once it does, it'll come into this range and try to get above that. But just know that we're kind of in that point where we could go sideways and a little bit up, or sideways and a little bit down with most alts, because Bitcoin still has a lot of dominance. And then once that dominance shifts and starts going down again, then alts just, they take off like a rocket. Doge is currently holding the 1221. Yeah, it's still above the 1221. All these wicks are going right into the 1221 area. So clearly support currently. Looks like the VWAP's curling back up, and RSI wants to maybe turn back up. So this one looks pretty good to me. I actually made a post about this, that I like the way it looked currently. We just needed to get some money into it. It's still in negative money flow, but I think money might be coming back into it, possibly. Yeah, here's some green on the 12 hour. It's no guarantee. I mean, it could still come down here and retest where it broke out, like we were talking about the order block before it took off right here. And really all that is you get a big move up, and usually you're going to get a 50% retracement at minimum. And then sometimes it'll go up, and then eventually it'll come back and retrace the whole thing. It doesn't always have to happen that way, but that's how the market makers like to do it, just because they want to go down and grab as much money as they can, or go up and grab as much money as they can from shorts. Opal or Opulus. This is one, there's a guy called Be Mighty on YouTube that does a good job of talking about alts that he likes. And I know Opulus is one, and he doesn't have any charts, by the way. He talks about, just kind of like premonitions that he's had about them. And he was right last bull run. So I kind of like to follow him for fun. But this one looks like it could be hitting some resistance soon. There might be a better buying opportunity. But, there's clearly, if you want to talk about, what is it right here? Right here. I think it's probably in here somewhere. I don't know, something like that is probably the range. And there's a few deviations. Yeah, I kind of like that. I mean, there doesn't always have to be a deviation. You could say this whole thing is the range. You could go all the way down to here and all the way up to here, I guess, if you wanted to. But I'm just looking in terms of where most of the support and resistance is on these moves. And here's kind of the midline, although it could maybe be up just a little bit more. Anyway, I would have to take the time to really find it. You're currently up against that midline resistance, and it could be turning up, though, on the daily. It's hard to tell. Yeah, it may be turning up on the daily, so it may not stop there. It may come up to here before it stops. But I think there is a point where it's going to turn back around and give another good buying opportunity. You don't have to chase ones like this. You can wait, because we're not to the halving yet, or a few months before the halving. There's still time to accumulate these alts. Here's Bond. Of course, all those were longs. Here's Bond, which is I'm experimenting with some things. That's why that other indicator was on there. Oh, Bond is actually a long, not a short. I think I was looking to short it up here, maybe. It's kind of in no man's land. I don't really like the pattern it's putting in right now. I don't even want to bother with it. Bitcoin 2, I think that's the name of this one, BTC 2. I've been playing this one on an exchange. Looks like it's probably headed down short time frame, but it might be curling up on the higher ones, like the 3-hour. And it's really hard to say. I think it's just kind of going sideways for the most part. I'm not too concerned about that one. Rose is another good long. I think I posted this one, didn't I? Hope I did. Rose. Where's it at? Yeah, there it is. So I posted this one back here when it was 58, 56. Currently it is 69, 59. Not a huge move, but it is moving up. It could be getting overheated here. Yeah, I think it's going to roll over at some point on the daily and come back and either retest this line, or maybe just right in here about the midline of this range, or it could just hold this line even. But this is a good coin going forward. I like Rose for the future. Actually, let's look at that real quick. I'd be interested to see this one. And while I'm doing this, let me give you a dose of what I'm listening to. If it's even loud enough. I didn't think about checking the volume. Hopefully it's not too loud. All right, so we're going to pin the scale to left scale. We are going to logarithmic. This one peaked. Wow, that's surprising. So Rose peaked January 2022. That's much later than most other coins did. It's really interesting. So here's a higher low. Let's just see what Rose is showing on RSI. And I apologize if that's too loud. I really don't know if it is or not. I'll just turn it down a little bit in case it is. Okay, RSI. Yeah, way overheated on the daily, though it could stay up here for a while. There's no bearish divergence just yet. And really, that's not even that much of a move yet, is it? Yeah, it's only 77%. What was I going to look at? Okay, so RSI is above 50. Let's look at the weekly. Here's a higher low. RSI is probably going to reject at 70 on the weekly and then maybe come back down to here to 54, possibly. And so if we go back to dominance and we look at rows again, higher low, just like the RSI broke out of this trend line, just like it did on our chart. So that's kind of what I was looking at. It broke out of that. And currently you got this candle coming down here. So it looks like, I'm just trying to get an idea here. Looks like, that's really surprising because it looks like Rose goes up while Bitcoin dominance is just marginally coming down or going sideways. And then when Bitcoin comes down, for whatever reason, Rose comes down. But then once Bitcoin finds a range, it seems like Rose likes it when Bitcoin dominance ranges up and down. So it goes up and then it comes back down. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But the main point is, I would say, I mean, here's November 2021, here's September 2021. So it had 3 different highs. It's very volatile though. I mean, that's what you want in a coin. It just looks really good. I mean, it'd be nice if it broke above. What would that give us? Well, let's just look at something here. Let's just look at the, let's look at the fibs. And then we're going to add the 1618 and 1272. So let's just say it got back above its all-time high. Well, from the bottom, you get 6x up to the 786, you'd get 25x to the 1272, and you get about 70x to the 1618. That'd be nice if it made it all the way up to the 1618 this next bull run. But of course, there's a lot of up and down, up and down, up and down it needs to do to get up there. Interesting though. Okay, so that's Rose. Here's TRB. This is one of the ones that I am interested in shorting, and I think it's getting closer to that time. But let's just look at the coin itself here. I know this is a mess here, but you can clearly see that this is a range. You know, here's the top. Somewhere, one of these 2 lines is the top. And the reason it doesn't look quite perfect is because I've got it set up on the lower time frames. So here's your bottom, and here's your kind of minor support resistance in between. And I'm looking at this right here. I think it's just going to keep rejecting this maybe. But the thing I'm concerned about is sometimes when it does this and comes into this range, sometimes these continue. But this could just be a Wyckoff distribution range where it rolls back over. So as long as it doesn't get above this trend line right here, then it's a good short. And really, if it's anywhere up here, this is a good short to take. And then just put your stop loss way up here above this wick. But my concern is if it breaks above it, then it could come all the way up here to 146. And I would figure it wouldn't get any more than that before halving. So I'm just trying, you know, this one did like a 10 or 11x. I'm trying to make some money off the short. And I have made some money off the ups and downs of the smaller time frames, but I want the big one where it falls down, way down here. And then Ren is another one that rejected yesterday. And I think I missed this short. I was eating dinner or something. But anyway, that's everything I've got this time around. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And well, I'll leave you with one more here. Here's Chess. It's one called Chess on the weekly. I think I have posted it before. It's got a wedge that's driving down here with momentum that's starting to come up. Horsey is starting to curl up here as well. And so it could reject here again and then come back down to this line. But I think the support will probably hold around 12 cents. And if it does, this could be a really good one to get into. Back to the top, it would be roughly 24x. I think this is an older coin though. I don't know why my chart doesn't really show that much history on it. I'd have to find another one. But anyway, that's one to keep an eye on. I mean, you can take anything that I said here, pause the video, make your own chart out of it, use the exact same numbers and stuff for your horizontal support resistance. You can ask me questions in the comments. Ask me what indicators I use if you want to know that. Just ask me anything you want. If there's specific coins you want me to look at, I'll post them in my Twitter, and then I'll go over them later in a video. Usually I try to do a video per week, but remember Twitter at Bike for Sale. I'll always post stuff there, or I'll try to. And usually it's on a daily basis, multiple coins, multiple charts. Just keeping up with what the market's doing. So yeah, anyway, that's what I've got for you today. Hit the like, follow me on the Twitter. That's the two things you need to do. Share it with your friends if you want. And let's make a bunch of money this bull run. All right, y'all have a good one.